And with all the holidays coming up, I thought, hey, we'll talk about Jesus. Somebody's gonna talk about it. Right? So, anyways, here's a synopsis of this whole thing. So we're born, right, and then we die, and in between, what are we doing, right? So from start to finish, we're flooded with this data, right? Our bodies are just receptors of information, and so we learn and we receive, and it's just relentless from the moment we're born to the moment we die. So how will we use what we're learning, right? It's kind of the point of what we're talking about today. All right. So today we place a huge importance on money. This item that we've placed this value on is a tool, nonetheless, and it's made up of matter, and it's made up of vibrating particles, right? That's what matter is, right? And so that's our reality that we exist in. The sages of old, they have hinted at a world within and without this one, right? Some have called it heaven, some have called it nirvana, etc., etc. The quest for heaven can be found through single focus, and everything else serves to that end. So why JC, right? JC, because you know who the heck I'm talking about. That's why. So mammon, right? The way we see and that we treat money is the way that we see and we treat each other. It's not always good. It's not always bad. Our to-dos oftentimes have an all-consuming factor, right? Which is something that we have to examine. And that is basically like, so what's the goal beyond all that's required of us, right? Taxes, tribute, etc. Who's the one that's setting this goal? It's the same person who by nature is a doer, who've got to do things, and the same person who has to, deal with the spiritual, transcendental, and deeper inner consciousness parts of ourselves, right? So what this does is it offers us a choice, right? You want to deal faithfully with things, you got to know how you function with the world. And if you're keenly aware of how much everything costs in this world, then you know that that's a big deal. Mammon it's actually lower on the hierarchy of demons. He's just wealth, and wealth is just something that we use on this earth, right? So nevertheless, its role is it's not really a bad thing. It's just a role in the scheme of things. Enter the immanent creative energy, the sound of cosmic vibration, the Christ consciousness, the Word made flesh, i.e. Jesus, and you got a story about a human who transcended all this reality. The whole story, the whole message is that the message is the kingdom is at hand, right? That to be a son of God is not something that we have to acquire, okay? It's just connect to the Father who lives in this kingdom called heaven, which is actually within us. And once you understand, having contacted this energy of heaven within us, you can begin to manipulate the reality that is around you on an atomic level, which is in examples of all the miracles and stuff that he put through, right? But this all comes at a cost to us, right? It's because nothing is for free, and with great power comes great responsibility. You all know that. So, but the cost is non-attachment. That's the fucked up part. Sorry about that, y'all. You know what I mean? It actually renders all of our little egoistic desires useless. So basically, like, I took this script here. Like, it's when he actually mentions mammon. He talks about all those kinds of really cool stuff, but in the end, you can read it. But like, if you're not faithful in the small things, if you're not faithful in material, like just awareness, then how can you possibly be aware of the further things? The whole idea is this: the heart decides. Okay, it decides how it's going to navigate through this world. Okay, it is accessible. We know how to access heaven, right? We know what it's going to cost us. What are we going to lose? We probably lose seemingly everything. What do we gain? We gain seemingly nothing. Seemingly everything, though. So, that which is least refers to mammon, which is the demon, as well as dense reality on a vibratory spectrum, right? If transcendence or heaven is the goal, then everything else just serves its end. And we, as the masters of our own reality, which is an individual realization, nobody can do it for you, right? We can use mammon and deal faithfully with ourselves and with the coming generations. So everything in existence is imbued with that same divinity, right? Trees and everything, blah, blah. And unless one is willing to take this kind of reality seriously, or faithfully, then we can't see it really as a means to reach the Christ within us. Because that's what it is. It's a choice. It all boils down. It's as simple and as complicated as a choice. It's a choice for dealing with the relentless flow of the learning that we are subjected to. So I hope you're going to take some of this time to revisit all of the ancient stories, okay, all the ancient texts from around the world, and admire the subtlety and the depth of our own ancestors. There's a lot of knowledge there. Right on. Let me grab my beer and I welcome your questions.
Do that. All right, I would like to start off with the first question, which is, I got two questions, so I'm definitely getting back to the one. But I just want to start off with, can we go back to the demons? Like, can you just like hit the left arrow a few times until I didn't realize that there were like specific demons for specific of the deadly sins. Yeah. Like, can you unpack that a little bit? Because that's kind of amazing. Like, where the names come from.
Well, everybody knows like the main one, right? Lucifer, you know, or like Satan or something like that, or the devil, you know. But like it under the book of what is it like? There's all kinds of like texts and books and stuff. But one of them is the Gnostics. The Gnostics they really put together like a really good list, and it puts like Lucifer as like the head of the army that fought God. And Lucifer actually, like, is really honestly what it represents. And I know it says pride, but like, it's separateness. You know what I mean? Like, cause it's like, cause God is all about oneness, and so then Lucifer is just about being separate from that oneness. So it doesn't understand its own oneness with that oneness. So it is separate, and so that's kind of what that is. But yeah, everything has like its own little thing, cause there's all little there's subtle energies. A demon is just a subtle energy. That's what a word is for it. It's not an actual thing. You know what I mean? It's just like an entity, like or an energy,
so,
kind of like envy.
So you're blowing me away here. So Satan and Lucifer aren't the same thing. And like Satan has his own department that's different. And this is amazing. Housewares. And also the other amazing thing that was just whispered in my ear. Crystal, do you want to share?
Well,
like,
I don't know who all
you're gonna blow the plot.
reads. Well, who all reads The Expanse? But there's a Abaddon's Gate, and I didn't know what Abaddon means, and it totally goes with the theme of that book, and it just blew my mind.
Spoilers.
Spoilers.
The Expanse
really
books
good.
have really esoteric titles, and this actually, like, you see, they did the research.
I'm having a similar moment.
Yeah.
Like, I'm seeing things from like songs that I know, and I'm like, oh, it makes so much sense.
Yeah, heavy metal. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Okay, I had a question. I can go back to your intro. So I think I was lacking a little bit of background because I know nothing about religion, in general. But I want to go back. You said you trained to be a priest.
Yeah.
But then what happened?
I found sex.
Catholic.
Which part of the found sex before they became
I found myself.
And did that change your relationship?
Well, yeah, it was a dogma. Like so the dogma of the church didn't fit with me, like because I was asking too many questions, and so then it was just like, all right, so and then basically they told me like, well, you can't be asking those questions. I'm like, well, screw this, so yeah.
Good for you.
So
Yeah.
if I can continue with another
Sure.
question, so where do you sit now with the church? Would you say that like you've kind of taken your faith on your?
Yeah, totally. So Jesus is not religion. Like there's
That's self-explanatory.
like religions were based on Jesus, but Jesus' teachings and everything. I mean, even though it goes through like translations. You know what I mean, from the ancient Aramaic to Hebrew to like there's still there's going to be a thread of some sort of silver lining. You know what I mean, of some sort of truth in there. You know what I'm saying? And if it's up to I guess your own discernment. You know what I mean, whether you figure it out or not just by reading the words. Jesus is just a character, you know what I mean? Like a fable, you can even say, an allegory. It basically just represents a connection to Christ consciousness that's available within us. Like that's what that's what Jesus is. You know what I mean? Just like Gilgamesh, and you know what I mean? Like just like any other historical figure, or not historical figure, but you get what I'm saying. So yeah, so as far as what I consider like religion and stuff to be like educational, you know what I mean, like kind of like when you're a kid, like it's kindergarten, but eventually you gotta upgrade. Eventually you gotta step up out of it. It's a very individual search, you know what I mean, the individual search for that God within you, and then unless you personally strive single focus and single-mindedly to get to that spot, like minus something, all these things that are thrown at us and all this flood of information, then you're not gonna get there. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, it's just a narrow gate. I'm not there. You know what I mean? Like, you know, who can get there? What's up?
Okay, I have a question. I love one of the initial quotes that you shared where if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. That's one of my favorite quotes. When you think about like your own mantra or ways that you, like Christianity has the 10 Commandments of ways in which you like govern your life, is there any like phrase or mantra or just like simple thought that you think about as you navigate life?
You know what? I was thinking about that because I was like, 5 minutes? I was like, all right, jeez. You know what I mean? There's like so many books written on this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, jeez. All right, so 5 minutes. All right, cool. So for me, it was like, you know, I kind of made it up for this specifically, but it was it's basically like I really like how Jesus says like heaven is at hand, and so heaven is at hand. I mean, you look at your hand, that's where it's at. You know what I'm saying? So like so heaven is at hand. Only single-minded focus will get you there. Everything else serves to that purpose. That's how we're gonna use like money, mammon, and all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's not a bad thing, you guys. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like you're just using these tools. You know what I mean? To get to the kingdom.
Yep, time for one more question.
So you mentioned purpose and to get to the kingdom. What does that look like? I don't know, it wouldn't be good to say practical or concrete terms because this isn't concrete, but
sure. It's
could you describe
super
purpose,
subtle.
elaborate?
It's so subtle. It's choice. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's like it's free will, right? It's we think that we don't have really a lot of power, but we really do because of all of our choices. You know what I mean? Like right now, you can choose to continue living another day, or you can choose not to. You know what I mean? Like these are very important choices. You know what I mean? That we make, and we make many choices every day. You know what I'm saying? And so that's where, like, you know what I mean, the kingdom like comes in, because you're constantly thinking like, okay, like this choice that I'm about to make right now, there's this duality of me, you know what I mean, that's okay, there's a duality of us, right, which is the doers. We're like doing stuff all the time, we're making money, we're doing this and that, blah 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 blah. And then there's that other side of us which is kind of transcendental, which is like trying to like figure stuff out and like trying to find like, you know, the spiritual connection, trying to find the greater what is, you know, the greater purpose, like you mentioned. And so it's like, so not necessarily balancing those two out, but choosing like really like choosing one, you know what I mean, that you're gonna go through. You're either gonna go and like, you know, make all this dough, you know what I mean, and focus all your life on that, you know what I mean, which is totally cool, you know what I mean, or you're gonna totally focus on trying to achieve like the kingdom, which is, you know, like your purpose and your blah 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 blah. And then and what I realized on that little conjuncture is that you're actually taking both. You win both. It's a win-win situation, you know. Like you win your kingdom because you're totally focused on doing that only. Everything you do follows in line with getting to that spot.
Thanks for sharing.
Awesome.
Think about it.